In this edition, we take a brief journey through the history of Earth before the Sumerian civilization. The Big Bang, approximately 14.2 to 13.7 billion years ago, electrons and hydrogen nuclei combined to form matter for the first time. 13.4 billion years ago, the formation of the planetary system. 12.7 billion years ago, the birth of the Milky Way galaxy. 10 billion years ago, the formation of the Sun. 4.6 billion years ago, the Hadean, marking the formation of Earth. 4.55 to 3.8 billion years ago, the Earth and meteorites took shape. 4.55 billion years ago, the formation of the Moon, followed by the late heavy bombardment of Earth-Moon. 3.8 billion years ago, the emergence of the most primitive oceanic life and prokaryotes. 4.1 to 3.8 billion years ago, the first large continental shields were formed. 3.9 to 3.5 billion years ago, the Archean, witnessing the formation of the oldest rocks and continents. 3.8 to 2.5 billion years ago, the first signs of plate tectonics on Earth's crust and the appearance of the oldest fossils. 3 to 2.8 billion years ago, the Proterozoic, the era of single-celled, eukaryotic fungi and animal life. 2.5 billion to 54.2 million years ago, the Great Oxygenation Event and the formation of the Earth's surface plate structure. 2.5 billion years ago, the emergence of eukaryotic life. 2.5 billion years ago, the appearance of water algae. 1.4 to 1.2 billion years ago, the split of Romania. 1.3 to 0.8 billion years ago, the snowball Earth during the Cryogenian period. 850 to 600 million years ago, the emergence of metazoans. 656 to 573 million years ago, the Ediacaran period with soft-bodied marine animal communities. 635 to 542 million years ago, the Phanerozoic began with the Paleozoic era. 543 to 240 million years ago, the Cambrian period, marked by the Cambrian explosion. 542 to 530 million years ago, the appearance of the most primitive trilobites. 540 to 245 million years ago, the emergence of the most primitive vertebrates. 520 million years ago, the appearance of the oldest fish. 518 million years ago, the beginning of the Ordovician period. 489 to 444 million years ago, the first mass extinction event. 445 million years ago, the start of the Silurian period. 444 to 419 million years ago, the formation of the Great Lakes in North America. 440 to 420 million years ago, the appearance of the most primitive land organisms. 428 million years ago, global warming. 420 million years ago, the Devonian period began. 419 to 359 million years ago, the emergence of the earliest insects. 390 million years ago, the appearance of the earliest spiders and reptiles. 375 to 338 million years ago, the emergence of seed plants and the most primitive. 370 million years ago, the second mass extinction event. 364 million years ago, the Carboniferous period started. 359 to 299 million years ago, the formation of Pangaea. 350 to 250 million years ago, the formation of the Ozark-Ouahita Apennine mountain ranges began. 310 to 270 million years ago, the appearance of early cockroaches. 300 million years ago, the collision of Africa with North America, forming Pangaea and the Appalachian Mountains. 290 million years ago, the Permian period began. 290 to 245 million years ago, the formation of the Ural Mountains. 250 million years ago, the third mass extinction event. 251 to 245 million years ago, the Triassic period started. 245 to 280 million years ago, the Mesozoic era began. 240 to 65 million years ago, the fourth mass extinction event. 214 to 199 million years ago, the emergence of the most primitive mammals. 200 million years ago, the Jurassic period began. 280 to 144 million years ago, the splitting of the primitive continental plates. 200 million years ago, the appearance of the most primitive birds. 150 million years ago, the Cretaceous period began. 144 to 66.4 million years ago, the split of Gondwana and Laurasi. 135 million years ago, the emergence of the most primitive primates. 80 million years ago, the separation of Europe and North America, forming the North Atlantic. 70 to 45 million years ago, the Tertiary period began. 66.4 to 1.6 million years ago, the separation of Africa and South America, forming the South Atlantic. 65 million years ago, the fifth mass extinction event and the beginning of the Cenozoic era. 65 million years ago to present, the collision of India with Asia, forming the Himalayas. 60 to 45 million years ago, global warming. 50 million years ago, global cooling. 45 million years ago, the collision of Africa and Europe, forming the Alps, Pyrenees, and Carpathian Mountains. 40 million years ago, the appearance of proto-humans. 30 million years ago, the separation of Greenland from North America. 16 million years ago, the formation of the Andes Mountains. 15 million years ago, the formation of the Mediterranean Sea. 10 million years ago, a global drop in sea temperatures, accompanied by drought in Africa. 8 to 6 million years ago, the split of chimpanzees and early humans in Africa. 7 to 6.3 million years ago, the appearance of the Chad erectus. 6.5 million years ago, the appearance of the Australopithecus afarensis. 3.9 to 3 million years ago, the divergence of early humans into Australopithecines and the genus Homo. 3 to 2.5 million years ago, early humans began using fire. 3 million years ago, the reconnection of North and South America, with several global cooling and drought periods. 2.8 million years ago, the early and middle Paleolithic ages began. From 2.59 million years ago to about 50,000 years ago, the Paleolithic Revolution, the formation of human consciousness. Paleolithic age, the early Paleolithic age of Africans. 4 million years ago, the earliest Old Down culture stone tools were found in Africa. 4 to 1.5 million years ago, the appearance of the Homo rudolfensis. 2.3 to 1.9 million years ago, the emergence of Homo habilis. 3 to 1.44 million years ago, the Olduvai Gorge was one of the earliest human habitats. 2 million years ago, humans left Africa for Europe, the Near East, and China. Approximately 2 million years ago, the Pleistocene epoch's Great Ice Age began. 1.8 to 10,000 years ago, the appearance of Homo ergaster. 1.8 to 1.5 million years ago, the appearance of Homo erectus, the use of Acheulean tools. 1.8 to 400,000 years ago, the appearance of Homo erectus in East Asia. Peking man. 1.8 million years ago, the first Homo erectus appeared in the Republic of Georgia. 1.8 million years ago, the appearance of hand axes in France. 1.7 to 30,000 years ago, Homo erectus used Acheulean tools. 1.4 million years ago, the appearance of humans in Europe. 1 million years ago, the ancestors of modern humans in Spain. 1 million years ago, the early Paleolithic age began. 800 to 250,000 years ago, the appearance of Homo heidelbergensis in Europe. 800,000 years ago, the appearance of Homo heidelbergensis in Europe and Asia. Approximately 800,000 years ago, evidence of fire use was found in Israel. 790,000 years ago, the appearance of early humans in Spain. 780,000 years ago, human tools were found in Great Britain. 700,000 years ago, Homo heidelbergensis used Acheulean tools in Europe. 500 to 200,000 years ago, the appearance of Neanderthals. Approximately 500,000 years ago, the overflow of the North Sea created the English Channel. 450 to 200,000 years ago, the appearance of modern humans Homo sapiens. Approximately 400,000 years ago, the formation of the Illinois Glacier. 330, 240, and 128,000 years ago, modern humans Homo sapiens began to appear in Africa. 300,000 years ago, the Neanderthals reached their peak in Europe and Asia. 250,000 years ago, the first anatomically modern humans Homo sapiens appeared in Africa. 200,000 years ago, modern humans Homo sapiens started to migrate from Africa to other continents. 160,000 years ago, the first modern humans Homo sapiens left Africa. 130,000 years ago, the last glacial period Wisconsin glaciation began. 100,000 years ago, modern humans Homo sapiens in the Near East and China. 80,000 years ago, the peak of the last glacial period. 70,000 years ago, a supervolcano eruption at Lake Toba, potentially causing a genetic bottleneck in human populations. 60,000 years ago, modern humans Homo sapiens reached Australia. 50,000 years ago, modern humans Homo sapiens in Europe. 45,000 years ago, the first humans in Europe Cro-Magnon. 40,000 years ago, the first human colonization of the Pacific Islands. 40,000 years ago, the Upper Paleolithic period began, characterized by advanced tool-making and art. 35,000 years ago, the first known figurative art, the Venus of Hohlfels. 30,000 years ago, the Neanderthals became extinct. 28,000 years ago, the first ceramic objects were made. 26,000 years ago, the last glacial maximum. 20,000 years ago, the end of the last glacial period and the beginning of the Holocene epoch. 18,000 years ago, the first humans in North America. 16,000 years ago, the first humans in South America. 12,000 years ago, the beginning of agriculture in the Fertile Crescent. 10,000 years ago, the end of the last ice age, the Mesolithic period began. 9,000 years ago, the first known city, Jericho, was established. 8,000 years ago, the Neolithic Revolution began, leading to the development of agriculture and settled communities. 7,000 years ago, the first writing systems began to develop. 6,000 years ago, the first wheeled vehicles were used. 5,000 years ago, the first known civilization, the Sumerians, emerged in Mesopotamia. 3900 BC, the beginning of urbanization in Jericho. 3500 BC, the cultivation of corn in the Americas, the first civilization stage in Mesopotamia, and the invention of cuneiform writing by the Sumerians. 3400 BC, the use of spinning, the handcart, and the potter's wheel in Mesopotamia, and the formation of the first true urban development environment.